And just very briefly, before I let them talk, because you really want to hear from them, not me, we have Jess Ossington from Audio Network. Very good. We have Laura Nakla. Okay, good. I said it right. From Warner Music Group. We have Angel Lee from Big Sync. And just arrived from New York last night, we have Joshua Rabinowitz. Thank you, Josh, for coming. So let's just get right into it. Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and how you got into this business?
Sure. I'm the general manager for Asia Pacific for Audio Network. Audio Network is a global music company. We have a catalogue of about 150,000 tracks, and we specialise in licensing those tracks to content creators. So that might be film producers, broadcasters, TV production, digital content producers, games, anyone that's creating content that requires music. So we fit under the category of what people call production music, and perhaps I should explain a little bit.
Give them a really quick definition.
Yeah, so production music is music. You're that guy.
Not that.
That's not production music. Production music is typically composed with media in mind. It's usually released in a library or a catalogue, and the rights are structured in a way that it makes it really easy for content creators to license the music. So you typically don't have to go to both the label and the publisher to clear those rights. You can do it through one company.
Right. So that way, basically what that means is that if I have a TV show or if I have a film, then instead of going to each individual company to find something, I just do one license with you, and then I have a whole range of music I can choose from.
Yep, exactly.
So that makes my life easier as an advertiser or as a film studio.
Yep. It cuts down cost, admin, and it's just a great creative resource.
Right. Yeah. And about how much content do you have in the library? You have a lot, right?
Yeah. We have 150,000 tracks, and we're adding about 20 albums every month. So it's a huge volume, and that covers every genre you can imagine. And it's all there. Wow. Anyone can jump on and search anything they like.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So let's see. So I'm gonna actually ask Josh, since he's over here. So how do you look at it from, Gray Advertising's point of view, the world of production libraries as a resource?
I used to not have a favorable view of music libraries, but as things have progressed over time, I have a super favorable view. And the reason is we've become budgetarily challenged. Clients aren't willing to spend as much money on some of the more scrappy kind of short form things. Rather than doing a big campaign or something for broadcast, like a 30-second or a 60-second commercial, we're doing a lot of things that are online and social media. We're doing interactive stuff, digital stuff, and we get very little money for it. Our clients are not willing to spend that much money, so it's a great resource. And because it's become a great resource, the quality also has gone up tremendously. And something that I do for a lot of up-and-coming composers and even established composers that have wonderful catalogs is I'm like, go to production libraries, go to places like Audio Network or Extreme Music or APM, the competitors, and show them your music. It's a great way to monetize your music and your creativity.
Absolutely. It's a good resource for people that are, artists that are looking at getting their music into sync and actually, finding another way to create some revenue, right? Great. Well, Jess has been nice enough to give us a reel of some of the work that you guys have done. Do you want to cue this up a little bit and tell us, what we're going to see, or should we just watch?
No, I just wanted to focus on one particular composer, because it's always nice to put a face and a name behind the music. So this is one of our composers, Mark Petrie. He's worked on really big blockbuster Hollywood trailers. So he's done Guardians of the Galaxy, Green Lantern, numerous ones. So this is just a little snapshot into the way he works.
Wonderful. Let's take a look. Wish we had a monitor.
It starts with sometimes just one little gem of an idea. It could be as simple as a chord change
Ask
that can
somebody
be
to bring
a
us a
great
monitor.
inspiration for music creating all
I know,
tracks.
but we need to see it. Yeah. Ask somebody. Ask somebody. Okay.
You're advertising multi-million-dollar movies, and people need to feel like that's what they're going to go to see. Hearing my music played by real people, it's just a huge rush. Just amazing to hear and to experience, to be in the room. I don't settle until something in the track has moved me emotionally, because I figure that it has to move me first before it moves anybody else. Trail music is probably 20% music and 80% production. The mix of a trail piece is critical because it's got to take all those elements which often compete for the same sonic space. One track can sometimes take me 2 or 3 weeks to get that authenticity.
So, Jess, that's pretty incredible because, you know, when most people, when they talk about production libraries, probably not a lot of people are familiar with production libraries, but basically people think, oh, you know what, it's very sort of pedestrian music. It's not going to be anything that's going to have super high production values, that's going to be absolutely amazing quality, that stands up to, you know, anything that would be, for example, created in, you know, Abbey Road in Studio One, you know, but obviously you do that. So how does that come into play in what Audio Network does? Because, you know, to me anyway, that wouldn't be something that would come under a blanket license, or would it?
No, it absolutely does. And
wow.
that's something that differentiates us, I think, is we invest an enormous amount of money, particularly into our orchestral music. So nearly all of our orchestral music is recorded at Abbey Road Studios, which is famous for, that's where the Beatles recorded.
Right.
With the London Session Orchestra. And the thing about, we justify investing that much money into the orchestral catalogue because if you get it right, it doesn't date.
Right.
So if you use electronic instruments to synthesize an orchestra, it's going to date. You might think it sounds okay now. A few years down the track, it'll date. So
I don't know about you guys, but, you know, anything that's string based, if you want real strings, you have to have real strings.
Yeah, you've
That's
got to
it.
do it right.
Same with horns.
Yeah, so it's worth the investment.
Absolutely. And basically anybody can work with you that has a visual media project, right? It doesn't matter like who you are, low, high, whatever.
No, we work with some of the biggest media companies in the world, like HBO, BBC, Nat Geo, and then we work with people making content for YouTube.
Right. So it really runs the gamut.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jess. That's a really good introduction into Audio Network. Now, okay, so let's talk about Warner. So, Laura, you know, one of the things, and we spoke about this earlier, but the first question I had in my head was, why is there a music supervisor at a label? How does that work? So tell us a little bit about that and your role.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Nackler. I am head of synchronization for Warner Music Asia. I'm based in Warner's regional Asia office, which is in Hong Kong, and I'm heading up a new role for Warner, which is synchronization. It's an area which is, you know, it's been a lot of time, money, and resources put into sync in other parts of the world with Warner, big teams in the UK and the US, and it's something that we're really serious about investing in time in Asia because there are so many opportunities for projects in the region. I'm working across 10 Asia teams with Warner, so people in Singapore, in China, in Japan who are looking for music, whether it's domestic content, it's local artists, or they're looking at international artists out of the US or the UK or, you know, worldwide. And I'm helping to kind of put the wheels in motion for sync, so that I can kind of connect the various parties worldwide and help make the process smoother, so that people can actually license the music that they need and that they want in Asia. essentially.
And Laura, part of your ability to do that well is that you come from the world of music supervision, right?
Yes, that's
so
right.
tell us about that a little bit.
So before I joined Warner, I was working for an independent music production company in the UK. We worked mainly in film, TV, commercials, video games, documentary. So yes, I was a music supervisor there and a composer agent, working with clients all over the world on very big budget projects and tiny projects. And really it was about finding the right music for the project. So that's something that's important to me in this role at Warner, is we're not necessarily promoting the music that may be important to us in various parts of the business, but it's about looking at what is the music that's appropriate for the project creatively. It may be that it's one of Warner's frontline artists who you're hearing on the radio and everyone listens to it and knows who it is. It's Ed Sheeran, it's Bruno Mars, it's Coldplay. Or it may be something that no one knows who it is, but that's the music that is the best creative fit. It may not need to stand out. The artist may not need to be somebody that everybody recognizes, but it has to be something that works for the creative.
Right. It has to be the right music for the project. And it's interesting that you said that because, a lot of the perception that people have is that, if somebody's coming to me from a label or a publisher, they're going to have their priorities, and their priorities are their first thought, not necessarily helping me with my priorities if I'm looking for music.
And I think it perhaps depends on who you're talking to at labels. Is music supervision an area that they understand, that they have experience in? Or are they working on the A&R side, in which case they may have other priorities? But
right.
It's certainly something that's important to me in developing with our teams in Asia, so that you can come to us and find the music that's the right fit for you, whether it's expensive, whether it's less expensive. Obviously budgets are different, and whilst it's a dream to have a big budget to play with, often it's a squeeze, and you just have to see what do we have that would be the best fit for this. And one of the things that we have, which is an interesting offering and hopefully appealing to clients in Asia, we have a small kind of sub-publishing arm called W Songs, and this is something that we own the masters and the publishing to, a growing catalogue. We've got hundreds of recordings where we can license them as a one-stop shop, which also I think hopefully is appealing, making it kind of a smoother process. And we have close relationships with Warner Chappell, who are under the same Warner umbrella as Warner Recorded Music. So I think part of my job is definitely trying to make the process as easy and efficient and flexible as possible for people who want to license, high quality music into their projects.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to see a video in a second. Don't play it yet, Ray. But of course, I'm going to come to you, Josh. Josh, what has been your experience in terms of working with labels when you're looking for music for projects?
It's been mixed.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Sometimes people do push the priorities to us. Generally, from my perspective as a music director, a music supervisor, a music producer in-house at an agency, is we kind of know the music we want, generally speaking. As a team, we kind of ideate and collaborate with our creatives. We come up with the idea, and then we'll go to a label or a publisher to get that music. Sometimes we're just going to do a cover version of a song, so we won't actually reach out to the label. Although sometimes when we are doing a cover version of a song that a label owns the master to, we will say, is there anyone on your label that you'd be interested in having produce and cover this song? But generally speaking, we have very strong relationships with the labels. I think advertising, specifically in media, is a great resource for monetizing the catalogs, for music discovery. It's become a real revenue generator for publishing, probably the biggest revenue generator for publishing. So the people that work at the labels service us in a very professional way. It's a very meaningful relationship that I've developed with the person from Warner Brothers in New York. She's a good friend of mine.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's a friend of yours.
Yeah.
She got me tickets for David Byrne, which is in 3 days, and I'm going to miss it, and I'm really upset about that. But that's what a good friend does.
Yeah.
And just to bring that into it. What I have found with labels, early on in my career, 20 plus years ago, they didn't have their shit together necessarily, And now they do. And it's an amazing relationship, very useful. But at times, there's some priorities that are pushed, and we don't really step into that too often.
Fair enough. That's good to know. And you know, the person that we're talking about is an extremely solid person and isn't going to give you anything you don't want, basically. Okay. So with that said, I just wanted to get Josh's perspective on that. Laura, do you want to cue up the video that you have brought for us? Give us a little bit of background on it.
Sure. So this is just a 2-minute sync reel to give you an example of some of the recent sync deals that Warner have worked on. So this is where there have been projects. This is mainly advertising this reel for you, which has used songs, recordings that Warner own, and we've licensed for these projects.
Wonderful.
Ponder this next time you're hungry. Does your food excite you?
Or speed core. Span down. Speed core. Span down.
There's some impressive stuff there, Laura. So, with all of that music, I don't want to get too deep into the woods here, but I'm going to go a little bit. With all that music, how many people came to you guys and said, okay, like Josh said, like, you know what, we want to have Spandau Ballet in this because the commercial's based around it, versus, you know what, we're looking for something that's going to help us to make scallops and peas more exciting.
Well, as Josh said, often people come to us and they know what they want, and they say, we know that you own the rights to the song, and can you help us get
Right.
it? So it really depends. Sometimes it comes down to budget. If there's a, you know, particularly well-known song that might be really perfect for a commercial, but there isn't the budget for it, then we can suggest some kind of brilliant alternatives. So it totally depends. Sometimes it's written into the script, in which case we have to make, you know, we have to find a way to make it work.
Yep.
But we want to be flexible with people so that, you know, if somebody hasn't got a budget that will quite stretch to Madonna, we can offer them something else that
Sure.
could work, you know, equally well.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in terms of the way that Warner looks at some of its, you know, you want to call them baby bands or artists that are up and coming or whatever, how does Sync work in terms of helping you to find ways not just to monetize their music, but to help them to get more exposure?
Well, that's where W Songs is quite interesting, because we've got some up-and-coming artists, up-and-coming bands who are brilliant. They are super talented, and they are keen to get their music out there in different ways, and Sync can be a fantastic way to do that. So within W Songs, we've got some artists all over the world. We've got rights to license their masters and their publishing, which
Right.
can also make it nice and quick, nice and easy for people who need music. And one of the things that I'm sure everyone on this panel can relate to is that licensing music can be complicated, and there can be lots of different parties involved, rights owners, writers, and from a client's perspective, you just want to help make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
They've got other things to worry about than who owns 1% of this, that, or the other, and that's where I hope that I can help, that Warner can help make it a smooth process, to take the headache kind of out of your hands, because we know how to look after it.
Yeah, basically it's a good thing that for people who are looking to use music, that Warner and the other labels too have spent the time to dedicate resources to make people's lives easier and to make things more efficient. So thank you for that. All right, so we're going to go from Warner right here to Singapore. So Angel, you're with a global agency called Big Sync. Big Sync is the musical agency of record for Unilever, which is small little brand. It works with a couple little brands around the world, right? And you guys basically are like a full service music agency, right? Tell us a little bit about that, how you work with Unilever, and you also brought us a video, so cue that up when you're done with the basic intro.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Angel, and I'm the country manager for Big Sync out of Singapore, where we look after all of Asia Pacific out of the Singapore office. We have 4 offices around the world, so as what Mark has talked about, we are actually the global agency for Unilever. So that means that we handle all of Unilever's music needs across 400 brands under the Unilever family. And besides Unilever, we also work on non-competing brands as well, such as Apple, Samsung, Diageo, and a lot of the other consumer brands. So essentially what we do is that we handle all music needs for the brands, where we look into sonic identity. So working with the brand teams to really formulate exactly what is the sound of the brand, and then formulating the guidelines moving forward for all the global initiatives, and then working on every single campaign that comes out of the brand teams, whether it's a global campaign or whether it's a local campaign, example.
Right. So basically, what you do and your group does, Angel, is you work with everything from saying, all right, so here's a song to go into a commercial, into things that are much more involved, like, okay, who is an act that's going to represent this particular brand, whether it be Unilever brands or another brand, who can be not just a musical artist for it, but also a brand ambassador, also somebody that can be within the commercials, maybe outside of the commercials at live events, tying into their live events and touring, all of that stuff, right?
Exactly. So any kind of music use. So whether it's a closer partnership with Cornetto and Taylor Swift in a couple of years ago, getting the tour, getting her likeness onto the packaging, using the song and synchronizing the song in the commercial use, for example, as well.
Right. It's really fascinating the way that you guys have put together artists, not just the music, but every aspect of the artist into different campaigns. And I hope you've got something about that today in your video, do you?
In this video that you see, it's just about the work that was done in 2017. So just to kind of show you the breadth of kind of work that we've done, the kind of campaigns that we do in a 1-year period.
Okay, great. Let's take a look.
养，不止修护，更预防损伤。我的头发50了。
Full-on Films presents Packages. Coleman's Full-on Flavor.
All right, so you guys do a little bit of work with a few brands. Nice.
Just a little.
I'm also gonna say one thing. This monitor is gonna be moved up here. I'm gonna make sure it's moved up here a little bit so that the next panels can see the videos. I'm really sorry for you guys because you all know what your videos are, but you're not getting the context that everybody else is out here. So we're kind of like driving blind here. I apologize. But anyway, the first question I had for you, Angel, is this. You know, you guys cover a lot of territory from Singapore. How much of the music that you use is music from, or artists that you work with, are artists from the region versus more sort of international artists from, you know, Europe or America?
That's a really interesting question because a couple of years ago, sophistication around synchronization within Asia wasn't that great yet.
Right.
So we do get a lot of brands asking for your top tier global artists.
Sure.
But of course, you know, when you look at a campaign, whether it's a global campaign versus an Asian context only kind of campaign, the budgets differ greatly. So a lot of times you're like, either I want a Taylor Swift or it's really like a low budgeted music use. So only in the last couple of years, you know, as we're working closer with brand teams, also educating them about, you know, regional artists, a lot of brand teams are now understanding that, you know, there are a whole gamut of Asian artists that they can also equally tap onto and at the same time reach their target audience as well. So happy to say that we've been working a lot more with Asian artists, specifically, for example, in the Philippines with OPM, in Thailand, in Indonesia, where a lot of the local repertoire is being represented in the advertising industry.
That's excellent. And how has the response been from the audience? Has it resonated with people that local artists are being used in their commercials? Do you get like positive feedback from that?
Yeah, we do. Sometimes it's also a way to break some local artists as well.
Yep.
So every time where, you know, we put an ad out there and then it's on YouTube, for example, we look at the comments and they're always like, where can I find the single? You know, who's the artist behind it? And they don't actually realize that it's actually a local artist, that, you know, that they can go and catch, you know, or listen to their music as well.
Okay, and last question about this. Do you guys actively work with the local artists to help them to say, okay, well, we've used your music in something, or, you know, we've worked with you as a brand ambassador? Do you help to connect the dots with what they're doing in terms of touring, what they're doing in terms of radio, so that, you know, it's helping them, and by association with the brand, it's helping the brand as well in the local level?
Yeah. So with that, we rely heavily on data analytics.
Okay.
So, you know, brand teams are also getting more sophisticated. They want to know which artists resonate in which kind of territories or which kind of cities, for example.
Right.
So, you know, specifically, you know, it's kind of a feedback loop.
Sure.
So we will tell the kind of artist, say, hey, you know, you're really popular in this city, but actually the ad is going out to XYZ territories. So maybe you might want to consider, you know, planning a tour around there, or doing more PR there, or marketing, for example. So it's really good that we're getting more and more data that's readily available from the artist side and also the brand team side.
Excellent. And, you know, typically you're working directly with the brand and also with their agency of record, right?
Yes,
that's usually
right.
the sort of like group of people you associate with when you're doing a campaign.
Yes, that's right.
Cool. Okay, so Josh does not have a video. He does not need a video. And also, we're going to be doing a keynote tomorrow, so we're going to dive deep into, you know, some of the work that he's done. But the question I have for you, Josh, is looking at this market. You know, you look at things. A lot of the campaigns and clients that you work with are global in nature, and the campaigns are global. You know, how much is the Asian market looked at in the conversations that you guys have with, you know, the brands that you're working with as part of, you know, the musical conversation?
It depends on the brand.
Right.
Certainly, we have many Procter and Gamble
There we go.
brands that are global.
Yep.
Pantene and Gillette,
Yep.
and that's a big part of those discussions.
Yep.
Not necessarily the sexiest brands, but you would be surprised by how sexy and cool the work can be. There's a lot of production value in there. So that's a heavy consideration. For Pantene, oftentimes we find a song that'll be part of a global campaign for 18 months. We did a song contest through MEDEM, another great conference.
Yep.
And we found this artist, Rosie Galan, and she wrote this song called Shine,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of the mantra for Pantene. They're kind of mnemonic, if you will. So we wanted to come up with a song that could be used globally. And what happened was all the different markets did their own versions of the song, which was great for her career and great for their career. The song was used in about 80 countries globally, which is pretty amazing
Yeah.
for an unknown artist living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which used to be a very uncool place. Now is like way too cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
Way too cool. And many versions were done in various Asian countries. So
Right.
there are situations like that. For the car company that we have, Volvo, we only work specifically within North America, but there have been times when the tracks have resonated so much that they decided, you know, there's been some analysis done and some testing done in markets here, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's use this particular track. So that's kind of a couple of examples.
Right. And sometimes you also have the converse where there's an opportunity to use Asian music in some of your campaigns, right?
There certainly is. We did something for Marriott Hotels.
Yep.
And I had reached out to
Yep,
you
I
about
remember.
which was shot at a hotel in Bali. And we used Deepa, a great DJ out there, and that was a big campaign for the hotel chain. They were really enthused about it. They spent a lot of money on it, and it was a great result. So there are certainly situations when we're doing that. That's just one of them.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to have to close out this panel in a couple of minutes, so I just want to open it up. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. We'd love to answer them. If you have any questions to ask anybody here, please raise your hand. Anyone? Okay, there we go. I got a question. It's like I win a reward when I get a question. Tell us who you are and what you do, and then your question.
My name is Vishnu. I'm representing myself. I just started my own musical journey under the name of I Love Wish. One of the things that I'm interested to learn is actually this matters. Now, with regards to, like, for example, for Warner, for example, as an independent artist, how do we reach out to you, and do you always prefer, for all the submission, do you always prefer one with one copyright holders, one writers, or are you all open to accept materials which have a couple more copyright owners? Thanks.
Big part of my job is obviously listening to lots of different types of music, and you never know where you're going to find the right thing for a project. So I love listening to things. I like it when people send me things to consider, new things. You know, we're growing our catalog all the time, and so in kind of short answer is, I'll give you my details, you can send it to me. I mean, somebody sent me something before this conference who I met up with, and it happened to be kind of very close to something that I was looking for, which was very interesting. So you just never know where you're going to find something that's the right fit. And that's the thing about Sync, is that it's about what does the music sound like, how is the music creatively appropriate for the project. So the bottom line is, the most important thing is, what does the client need, and how can you make the process as easy, as flexible as possible for them to find the perfect piece of music that's going to enhance what they're trying to do creatively.
Because I got feedbacks like, oh, your song have more than one writers. uh, and they want to have just one copyright owner. Is that something that you take into consideration when you consider material?
You can't penalize somebody for having more than one writer on a piece of music. It's just the way it was put together. So
Yeah.
I don't think that you could say. I mean, from a very kind of cold commercial perspective, yes, it's easier if there's one writer and there's one copyright owner. But I don't think you can't really look at it like that. I'd say
as a songwriter, the main thing is to be really clear about who has the rights to that song. So be really upfront with anyone that you're co-writing with. What kind of percentages are we going to have here?
I think that's a really good point, both Laura and Jess. And another thing that I'll say to you is that one way to make that easier is to sit down with the fellow co-writers and say, give me permission in writing to represent the music. So that way, you just obviate all of these problems. If somebody says, well, you have 3 writers, well, yes, I've got consent to represent this track, it makes things much easier. So that would be my personal advice. Okay, we have time for one more quick question. Anybody? All right, very good then. We are going to wrap up this panel and go on to the next one in just a second. But I wanted to ask you all, if somebody wants to talk to you more or get in touch with you to do business with you one way or the other, what's the best way to do it?
You can come and talk to me right now if you like. Otherwise, if you go on to audionetwork.com, all our contact details are there.
Wonderful. Laura?
me. Very happy to talk to anyone that wants to chat after this and give you my details. We can keep in touch.
Great. Angel?
Likewise, bigsyncmusic.com. If you're a composer or artist, you can send us materials. If you're a brand looking at licensing music, you can just put on a query on there too.
Wonderful. And Josh?
Come see me or email me, and my email address is my name, Josh Rabinowitz at grey.com, grey.com. Josh Rabinowitz at grey.com.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank all of our guests. Thank you guys for your insights and your videos, even if we couldn't see them back here. So give them a round of applause, please. Thank you.